astounded and blown away by the exceptional beauty of the African wilderness. The amazing diversity of life, how each of those individual animals is incredibly adapted to survive in what can sometimes be such an inhospitable environment, and how they can all survive in the face of infections and parasites and drought, and they can still maintain such incredible health. The balance and harmony of nature has always astounded me. I was really lucky. I grew up in South Africa, and as a kid, I had heaps of pets. I had dogs and cats and gerbils and a tortoise and a goose, chameleons and a monkey. And I was really lucky because my dad was very involved with conservation projects. So from a young age, I was exposed to a lot of wildlife in a really intimate way. I'd see a wild elephant close up, so close that I could count its eyelashes. And I'd get to experience a baby hippopotamus being rehabilitated, and cheetahs or lion cubs or leopards, and see what people would do to help these animals. So from a young age, it was instilled in me that I was going to be a vet. I knew that that's what I had to do. So I grew up and became a vet. I moved to New Zealand and I began practice. I began my career, and it was just so amazing. I love surgery and I love using my hands. It's just so incredible what you can do to help animals in a surgery. And similarly, being a bit of an adrenaline junkie, I love emergency medicine. I love emergencies after hours where you have to think quick and you have to act very elegantly. And sometimes it's really tricky because you have to juggle the owner's delicate emotions at the same time. And what was really cool was working as a vet. I was working less hard than I was as a student, and I was getting paid for it. But there was a growing frustration. There were diseases that I was seeing in my patients, like obesity, like cancer, like heart disease, arthritis, allergies, skin conditions, where the tools that I was taught as a student were not providing a sustainable option. They were just patching up symptoms. And I wanted more for my patients. I wanted to figure out what else could I do to help these animals. I was brought a case called Jess. Jess is a border collie and he had an autoimmune condition. Autoimmune means that the body is basically breaking itself down. And Jess had ulcerations in his mouth, he had ulcerations under his arm, and he wasn't a happy dog. His local vets treated him with some amazing drugs. They were often life-saving. They were immunosuppressive drugs. And that cut down on the overreaction of his immune system and eased his symptoms for a period of time. That brought him quality of life, which was great. But the side effects of those drugs, they compromised his immune system. And so what happened over time was Jess developed an infection, and it wasn't just any old infection, but it was an infection that was resistant to many antibiotics except for one. And so his vets did what they could for him. They put him on the antibiotic that was going to kill that one bug. But that antibiotic was toxic to his kidneys. And so his kidneys started to fail. And poor old Jess was stuck between a rock and a hard place. What was really going to get him wasn't going to be the infection, the drug, his autoimmune condition. And his owners wanted another option. And I wanted another option. So instead of just chasing our tails, I was looking for other options. And this case came to me too. This goat's name was Monday. Monday lived with two other goats. The other one was called Sunday. And Monday and Sunday had a sister called Judy. And Monday, Sunday, and Judy lived an amazing existence. Their owner took such wonderful care of them. But poor Monday, from a very young goat, he had a lot of health issues. He had recurrent lung infections, he had a high parasite count or a worm burden, and no matter what drugs his local vets used to kill the bugs that sorted or caused his lung infection and the bugs that contributed to the digestive upsets or the parasite issues, the parasite numbers still wouldn't come down, they wouldn't be killed, and the lung infections would be persistent and come up. And Monday's owner also wanted other options. So I was looking for the missing link. What could I do to help these animals? And when it comes to the missing link, this kitty cat illustrates a lot for us. He illustrates our modern Western pet society, which is often overfed and undernourished. A lot of the food that we feed our animals is not wholesome, good quality food. It is not nutrient dense. It is often filled up with byproducts, there's fillers, there's grades, there's chemicals, there's preservatives, and sometimes there are even chemicals that are known carcinogens. And that's kind of crazy to think that's what we're feeding our pets. It's no wonder we're seeing so many diseases, because it's not giving them wholesome natural goodness to support their systems. So, how did we get into this position? And the way that I see it is that years and years and years ago, us humans used to live off the land. The dogs and cats that lived with us, we used to share our scraps, or they'd hunt for food around the place. And that worked pretty well. Back in those days, we didn't see a lot of these types of diseases, like our couch potato obese cat, like the autoimmune conditions, like the cancers and allergies. But then us humans got lazy. We modernized our diets, we started to eat more refined foods, and subsequently, the scraps that we shared with our pets were really imbalanced. Vets used to see a lot of diseases like rickets, where you've got skew bones in young animals. And vets basically thought, well, what can we do to sort this out? So vets got together with industry, they packed up these bagged foods where we can scientifically measure all of those nutrients to make sure that they're balanced well enough so we don't see disease conditions like rickets that much anymore. But now we're seeing all these other diseases, and it's become a bit of a trade-off. So, I haven't treated many amphibians. I did have an after-hours call once about this lady's frog, and she was really concerned, and I gave her the best advice that I could, and hopefully overnight the little fella didn't croak. But this little guy is here to share an important message with us. Bite you. And this message is really helpful because this can help to support an animal's health. And when it comes to supporting health, what I try and do is look at all of those things that I can help an animal with to support its body. And there are a few things that can make an incredible difference. So what everybody, whether it's a human or an animal, needs is tender, loving care. That's a bare minimum. Then we've got 3 other things that are very, very important to help an animal or a human to stay healthy. Is good nutrition, rest and relaxation, and exercise. But like with everything in life, balance is vital. If you overdo or underdo any of these 3 main aspects, health will be impaired. So like our couch potato cat, too much rest and relaxation, not so good. But interestingly enough, too much exercise, not enough rest and relaxation, not so good either. Too much exercise will put the body into a state of stress. Too much stress leads to the release of hormones that impair the immune system. So balance is really important. What I've found is that when you give the body what it needs, it works wonders to restore health. It's astounding, the patients that come to us with really crippling health conditions, we apply these principles. And when it comes to nutrition, it's not just about too much or too little, it's about quality. And by feeding wholesome, natural food that is balanced, that has optimal amounts of nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids, multivitamins, antioxidants, minerals that are bioavailable, meaning that they are usually in their natural form and can be easily digested and utilized, and that they're biologically appropriate and free of foreign chemicals. And biologically appropriate for a dog and cat that are carnivores means that there's meat in there. And for our grazing animals, it means that the pasture is high in nutrients, and the soil that nourishes that pasture is high in nutrients as well. And amazing things can happen from that. I had 2 dogs. And I went home with raw meat to feed my dogs as part of a balanced, wholesome, nutritious diet. And being a vegetarian, my dogs couldn't quite believe this. As a good vet, I was feeding them biscuits that we could measure and make sure they were scientifically balanced and give them everything that they need. And they found this meat in their bowl, and they were amazed. They just guzzled it down, didn't look back, and thought that this was a one-time off occurrence. And day by day, they continued to enjoy their food as I continued to provide them with this interesting new diet that I was learning about. And And lo and behold, some very interesting things unfolded. The little girl dog that was prone to getting flea problems no longer had them. The little boy dog who was prone to skin issues, a lot of his skin issues just resolved and he didn't have any further problems. When it comes to this approach to supporting health, we get some really amazing results. And years ago, there was this cat that was roaming around the neighborhood and he had this big wound on his face. And people had seen him doing that for a good 3 months. Finally, the SPCA managed to catch him and he was unowned. He was an older fella. He looked like he had a little bit of a sore back. And with that horrible wound on his face, he was really having a rough life. So we took him into our clinic, sewed up his wound. We treated him in our special hyperbaric chamber to help enhance his healing, and he went back to the SPCA to find a nice home. But this little fella that we came to call Frankie had a bit of a cranky streak. And good old Cranky Frankie wasn't going to be adopted because when you patted him, he'd occasionally swipe out. And people don't like that. So our staff thought, the poor fella's had a rough life, let's take him in and look after him as our clinic cat. And we did that. But good old Cranky Frankie, he was also skanky. Now and then, from time to time, he'd pee in the clinic. And you'd arrive in the morning and find this nice spray up your books or on the floor. And good old Cranky, skanky Frankie, he just wanted to milk us for everything that he could, because then he developed diabetes too. Which meant that we had to treat him with insulin, give him regular blood tests, and when he was cranky, that was tricky. But we found that when we fed him with a diet that was wholesome, providing optimal amounts of various nutrients, his cranky streak was much improved. In fact, so was his skanky streak too. And so we let him live out a good quality life with us. A few months ago, I had an interesting email from a client over in Australia. And I'd been helping him with his cat that had cancer. His email was amazing. It was very humbling because he wanted to say thank you. He was now free of cancer. He said that he'd taken the principles that we'd applied for his cat and used those for his own health. And now he was delighted to say that he was free of cancer. Going back to Monday the goat and Jess, those animals went on to live greater quality of life. Jess lived drug-free without much recurrence of his symptoms and a full life. So, when it comes to sustainable healthcare for animals, basically, sustainable healthcare helps to enhance long-term health and well-being. It supports natural principles and helps to empower animal owners to take responsibility for their animals' health, so that their pets can live long and happy lives, disease-free, in optimal health. Can these principles be applied to humans? Absolutely.